It's kind of dark. See if we can get a little bit brighter here. Hi, everybody. Just give me a minute. I'm going to try to fix some of the lighting here so we can see. Oh, that's a little bit better. Welcome to the Friday Guten Yardening chat / question and answer session. I'm going to spend a little bit of time tonight just relaxing with you and enjoying some of our surroundings and nature as people hop on. It's a nice, breezy, cool day today. This is the first time I've actually been able to get out here and be in the garden all day. So it's just a nice change of pace. We can fix this just right. I see one person here. We welcome everybody. Hello, everybody. Please feel free to leave us a message here. I'm actually going to, please leave it in the chat. I'm typing you a message right now. If you have any questions for us, we will try to answer them as best we can and talk a little bit about the past couple weeks here. We have a couple other things to talk about tonight, but we're happy to see people here. I know the sky in the background's a little bit too bright right now, but I don't know that there's a better spot from where we are. So we're just going to try to keep it as bright as possible here. It has been, actually this week in general has finally started to cool down a little bit, which is pretty perfect for what we have going on in terms of transitioning from our summer garden to our fall garden. We took some time this week, and actually just in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 days, to really make some of those changes. We've had a lot of our fruits and our vegetables that we've needed to pull up and start replacing with our fall vegetables. And we actually have a few that we've grown from seed this time. I would say, I don't want to say it's half and half. We've actually grown quite a few from seed this time around, but we also have some seedlings that we're transplanting as well. Our front yard in space is absolutely going loading up right now as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight, talk about some of what we have planted and our plans for upcoming videos. So we're going to wait just another minute and see who else hops on here before we get going. But again, if you have any questions for us, feel free to leave a comment in the chat. And again, we'll answer them. And just say hi and let us know who's here. That'd be great too. That way I can talk to you specifically. So we know. I'm just noticing for the first time as I look over here that some of our second crop of raspberries are coming in as well. But I'm going to stay over here and enjoy myself. We'll have to get some of those later. It's a nice ambiance out here tonight too. It's been a little bit windy for the last couple of days. So actually getting out to film has been one of those struggles, I guess, in some ways, because you have to make sure that the wind isn't too overpowering, but at the same time, it's also that nice, comfortable feeling because you can feel that transition into fall as well. Um, one of the things, one of the things that we've noticed in terms of that move from the warmer weather to the cold is that we've finally started to get slightly um, more frequent rainfall. Although, I mean, you saw one of our, hopefully you saw in one of our recent videos, sometimes that was more of a violent rainfall. But we, in our recent experience, like the last 2 weeks, I would say we've had 3 really nice, good rains. I mean, that's helped a lot, is especially when you're trying to get going with seedlings. You don't want there to be too much. You don't want to flood everything out as they're trying to take purchase. But at the same time, and when we're out there having to water every single day, it's not ideal. Our rain barrels will last for, for the size of what we have here and the 2 rain barrels we have. Maybe the time that the one good rain, and really it only takes one good rain 10 or 15 minutes to fill up our rain barrels, but we use those up pretty quickly. The plants love that water, so we try to get it out to them pretty quickly. But one of the nice things about that rain, transitioning, coming in, and really helping us out with the watering front, but also that natural rainfall is something that brings these plants alive. If you have gardened in the past, or if you've had any experience with this, you know that all it takes is one rainfall, one single rain, and it's just like a brand new place outside. And if you get 3 or 4 rainfalls in a row, then it can turn into a place you don't even recognize, a jungle, really. So we've enjoyed that transition now from the heat, where it's almost oppressive to walk outside for any given period of time, to this slightly cooler weather. And the evenings now, I mean, we've had temperatures in the low 40s. uh, Thanks, Casper. uh, we we have a friend who has her own YouTube channel, and we were talking to her the other day, and she used the term um, toad choker. I've heard that before. So, Casper, it's not the first time I've actually heard that phrase now. They say that a good toad choker, so something that rains so much that it can actually choke a toad, I guess, that a good toad choker is a term that's used, I guess, in the South. Well, I'm originally from a little farther south. I'm from West Virginia originally, and I have to tell you, I had never heard that phrase. We use the phrase gully washer a lot more, not toad choker, uh, um, but yeah, we've had some really good rain here. Let me check my internet, make sure everything's going okay there. Hopefully, I'm out here. I'm out here out back, and then, as you know, if you've tried streaming on YouTube before, until you hit 1,000 subscribers, you can't stream on a mobile device. So we're out here as close to the internet as we can be, but also as close to our garden as we can be, just to try to enjoy ourselves. And so the internet might fluctuate a little bit. We'll see, but we'll try to keep it. We'll try to keep it going as much as possible. Um, but our fall garden's coming along, and actually we are going to have a full garden tour in one of our upcoming videos very soon, and we're going to take our time and walk through and show you everything that we have, because this fall garden, it's definitely going to be the biggest we've ever had in terms of the number of vegetables that we're planting, the varieties that we're planting. So that's going to be exciting even for us. But also, we have more space than we've ever had before out there. How are we managing the pests? Well, that's a great question. Well, for one thing, I've alluded to this in other videos. The Japanese beetles really were not nearly as bad this year as we've had in the past. Last year, our sweet potatoes, which I'll move out of the way a little bit, you can see we're getting really close. They're right behind us here. There's more down here. But our sweet potatoes were just decimated last year. I mean, really, the Japanese beetles were everywhere. And this year, it really wasn't as profound. And we've talked about it in the past, but one of the things that might have had something to do with this is the fact that we've tried to keep birds around here. We've tried to attract birds. We know that they ate quite a few of them. But I also read that the I've read other people say that this was a better year for them as well. So it's highly possible that the Japanese beetle population just wasn't as bad anyway. I'm not sure, but we've had luck again with the soapy water with the Japanese beetles. One of the other insects that we've had to deal with this year, we think, um, but the uh, squash bugs. We've had squash bugs. We've also had fall pests that have been eating up our brassica. So our cabbage is really, we got some really nice cabbage for the first time. I would say for the first time ever, because we never had harvested cabbage before. We never had any that had actually formed heads. But the cabbage moth came along this year, and especially later in the season. And I don't know if that's common. I don't know if the time of year fluctuates for those, but later in the season, the cabbage moth just came along, and we had 2 head of cabbage that we should have pulled earlier that they got to, our red cabbage, and they just got to, and it wasn't pleasant. They ate all the leaves. We're seeing the same thing with damage to some of our cauliflower and our broccoli leaves in general, even though we've already harvested most of the broccoli. Uh, it's really interesting to watch those insects go to work, because it's like the experience we had with one of our summer squash, or actually our zucchini, where we had a perfectly healthy plant. I'll try to get to a place where you can see me a little better. We had a perfectly healthy plant. I mean, it was producing well, and we've struggled with zucchini in the past. For whatever reason, we've struggled with zucchini. But this one was producing so well, and we went out one day, it was lovely. The next day, it was gone. It was dead. And the squash borer that comes along, once you see how it can devastate, you see how important it is to try to stay on top of any possible insect damage. So we're this time around, for the plants that the seedlings that we just planted out front, we're going to do a little cayenne mix to try to keep some of the other critters off as well. I mean, we do have a lot of rabbits in this area. We have those mammals apparently don't like the hot peppers just in general. So the spiciness of it. So we're trying a lot of natural remedies. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes that is more labor intensive, I think, for us. And that's one of those things where when you're trying to grow organically, and there are lots of recommendations for what you can put on your plants, ways to treat these insects. You know, I trust a lot of those. I trust a lot of those tried and true remedies, but at the same time, we're working so hard to try to make sure that we can do everything as I don't know, as naturally as possible. And so, with our new seedlings that are coming in, we're doing everything we can to protect them. Actually, we planted some seeds, some broccoli, some cauliflower, some really cool broccoli and cauliflower that we got from Baker Creek Heirloom, and we had them growing in our basement for a while just to get the seedlings started, and then we brought them out to our porch to harden them off. And I would say, right as we were about to put them in the ground, I mean, right as we were about to put them in the ground, here came the cabbage moths, and they just tore the tops apart. So it's one of those things again where one day everything looks fine, It's growing up. You're ready to put it in the ground. You come out the next day and you look, and they're just, I don't know how they get there. The cabbage, these little caterpillars that are the cabbage moth caterpillars, and they're all over, and they've eaten so quickly. It's kind of like our experience with. Oh, if I move back here, it's even worse, isn't it? It's kind of like our experience with um, the tobacco hornworm that we had earlier this season, where and we didn't show a video of that, but it was one of those you know in our compost area. We have two tomatoes actually that volunteered to come up, and they are huge. And right after, I would say, my wife had trellised it up. It was big, beautiful plant. Right after, the next morning we come out there, and there's a huge chunk taken out of it, and that huge chunk was by two of those hornworms. And I mean, if you've never seen a hornworm, they get really big, and they have an appetite to match their size. And I have to tell you, it's one of those things where you put work in, and then you see the animals come along, and they're hungry too. And they're part of this ecosystem that we're creating out here. But there is something difficult when you're seeing that work go to something other than you. A great example of this is we planted some seedlings, some kohlrabi, some broccoli, and cauliflower in our main garden. And the day after we planted them, it was I would say, I don't know. I probably waited till the afternoon to get out because I couldn't get out in the morning. They were gone. I mean, they were down to the stem because of rabbits. And how did the rabbits get in there? I don't know how the rabbits got in there. I mean, it's our main fenced in area. And that's strange too, because our main fenced in area is the area that, I mean, the other raised beds that we have aren't fenced in. And so the rabbits didn't attack what was there, but they went for our fenced in area, which is, I don't know, to me, unexpected. And, again, you walk out in the morning, um, and you expect to see everything going great because you just planted it the night before, and it's absolutely gone. Hello. Hello to both of you. How are you today? Oh, I see a question. I'm sorry. I was so busy talking, I missed the question here. How would you deal with snug? I can read. I might be an English teacher, and I might have misunderstood the answer or the question. How would I deal with slugs and snails naturally? Actually, I've been reading up. Oh, hello. Good day from down under to you, sir, as well. Thank you. Hi, Ann. Um, I've actually read what a lot of people do with this is to put out what they call beer traps. And it's not something that I have ever looked into or done. And actually, we did have a little bit of slug damage this year to our cabbage. The main cabbage, we had one of them in particular that burst open. And I found one slug on one of the inner leaves there. So, but we really don't have as many problems with the slugs as other places do, I think. But so this is just a recommendation that I've read from others, but I've seen in some of the gardening groups I'm a part of some really profound results where they take just a small shallow container and fill it with some beer, and then the slugs are drawn to it. I've also read the same thing about petroleum jelly as well. Yeah, so I know for a fact, and you're absolutely right, the salt, or sorry, the chickens love the slugs as well. And tropical fruit gardening Canberra says spreading coffee grounds can be a repellent. That's really good to know. and especially since we do put coffee grounds in our compost, and we have spread them lightly in our garden as well. That's a really great point. Again, we haven't had so much of a problem with slugs, but I know there are parts of the country and, well, parts of the world in general that have that as a major issue. I really don't. I'm glad we don't have the problem here, or as much of a problem with slugs. And I'm wondering if that problem grows based on what you're planting in general. So I don't know if there's some preference that slugs have for a particular type of vegetable. Oh, they've gone crazy. You're out in California, right, Carla? So that would be, I don't know. I think I might try. I think the coffee sounds great, especially if you're trying to keep them off of a particular vegetable. That'd be an easy spread, just in general. And again, that trap. If you look at some of the pictures, I mean, if you don't mind looking at pictures of slugs, if you look at some of the pictures there of what those beer traps bring in, I mean, they're just loaded with slugs. So I might try that. I don't know if I'd feed that then to chickens. You don't want that to happen, as well, I guess. But yeah, it's so interesting to me, and I should say it's interesting to us to see which pests. Yeah, you should try it. Definitely, you should try both of them and see what happens. See what works. I'd love to know more. Again, all of our knowledge about dealing with those particular pests has been secondhand. But it is interesting to see which pests hit where, and also, I mean, it's that year to year difference. Hey, Charlie, how are you? It's that year to year difference with, the pests that we see as well. And you're right. It's one of those things where one year you get off easy. You think to yourself, "Wow, this is like the I'm not going to have any problems." In the next year, it can be a devastating piece to your garden. It's like for us, rabbits have been in our yard in the past, and the damage that they've primarily done to us, or for us, is actually the bark on some of our fruit trees in the wintertime. That's typically been more of when they've, come to play, I guess you could say. But this year, they went for the beans and then some of our new seedlings. And apparently, and I'll just throw this out there. I'm really sorry my lighting's not any better. But apparently they really like Swiss chard. So if you plant Swiss chard, at least my rabbits, we'll claim them as my rabbits or our rabbits. Our rabbits love Swiss chard and absolutely a lot. Um, so that's another thing that we're experimenting with this year. If you saw the video that we did on the storm damage that we had, we tried to put together a hoop house, and the hoop house was absolutely, I mean, it came together nicely. It was very simple, and our belief was that it could withstand a lot of damage or a lot of wind for our area. In our area, we're talking, typically, like today, we're having maybe 10 mile or 15 mile an hour gusts of wind, but maybe 20, 30 miles an hour we've had. But when we hit that 60 miles an hour, 65 mile an hour winds, it just came apart. But part of the reason we had that hoop house was to try to protect the try to protect the garden from some of the other critters, in addition to extending our growing season. So one of the plans we have, because we don't want to give up on that, even though the cloth isn't going to work. So one of the plans that we have now, hopefully, is to invest into, some film, some greenhouse film, and see, if that's something that we can do. Again, we want to extend our season a little bit more. I don't want to say that we're selfish, but when it's time to go inside, and we have plans for that, but when it's time to go inside, we still want to be outside. I am curious what, the people in the chat, what others are growing, or some of the maybe some of the successes you've had this year. I think at last count for us, we were at 40. Oh, I don't want to make it up. too badly. I was something in the neighborhood of 42 or 43 different varieties of fruits and vegetables that we had planted um, in our summer garden. So, and these are all varieties that we enjoy or enjoyed so far. Charlie is feeding the deer. Okay, so a benefit to urban gardening is that where I live, I have not seen a deer yet. I have seen, strangely enough, on the main road here, I've seen a couple foxes. Yeah, but no deer. Um, that's a tough one too, because um, I was actually reading about this recently. One of my friends was talking about, they live not too far from us, but they live in a more rural area, and they have a stretch of forest right behind them. And they said the same thing. They've built fences, and their statement to me was, it doesn't seem to matter how high our fence is. The deer are very able to get in there. Um, so Anne, that is so interesting. So Anne said she was successful with cukes growing up rather than on the ground. And I have to tell you, we 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 tried trellising our cucumbers this year, but I really think, I mean, I don't know if it was the stretches of heat. Well, hi Twyla. I don't know if it was the stretches of heat or what it was, but our cucumbers this year, I think grand total, we must have had, I don't know, 5 so far out of all the plants that we planted. And it was just an absolutely disappointing year. And I'll say, it wasn't just the heat. This is the first year. This is the first year that we have had cucumber beetles like crazy. I mean, everywhere. So I guess that's another one of the pests that we had to deal with this year, is the cucumber beetles. Um, I'm trying to find a way to sit so that I'm not looking like I'm. Well, the sun's in my eyes, but maybe you can see my face a little bit better. I don't know. You can let me know. I feel bad because I'm constantly in shadow here. The cucumber beetles came to town and just wreaked havoc as well. And so, our it's another example of our plants looking pretty good, and then that combination with the heat and the dry weather, I think really just set us up there in general. Let's see here, Charlie. Charlie, I think, I mean, it's different people's experiences, but I wouldn't be surprised if the fencing actually helped quite a bit. I think it was just the frustration, and I will say that my friend told me that it was primarily the outer areas, because the deer can jump a little bit. So if you get some decent height there, I think that would be okay. Let's see. Carla said you're successful with peppers. Carla, I have a question about that, because this is the first year that we are growing even close to as many peppers as we're growing. Um, we actually have some peppers that have turned red already, which is exciting, in my opinion. And we have our first jalapenos, which we've allowed some of them to go to turn red, to fully ripen. So I also am excited about that, because I think, I'm somebody who enjoys hotter peppers. But just in general, is there a pepper out there that is, um, I don't know, is there a pepper out there that is easier to, like, prolific for you, or one that's been more prolific for you, or grown way more than anything else? Ours has just been it's called, I guess, a frying pepper. It's like a long, just a long thin pepper. But we want more bigger, fuller, more well-developed bell peppers, and we haven't had a lot of luck with that. So I don't know if there's something that you've had a lot of success with. It'd be really interesting to know what that is. Charlie, you said my asparagus roots are coming up close to the surface. Should I bury them? Do you mean so? Well, first of all, how old is your asparagus? I'm curious about that. What we've done, we have 2 years old. Oh, so you got what, another year or so? Probably another year or so, and then you'll be harvesting. Actually, have you harvested any off of it after 2 years? There are probably a couple small ones. Once, yeah. So we're in year three with ours, with our asparagus, and I think next year is going to be a. I think based on what I'm seeing, it's going to be a bumper crop. As far as what you do with your roots, I would add a little soil to them, cover them up a little bit more, and then mulch them. That's 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 exactly what we've done for ours anyway. And asparagus, from what I've seen, what I've read, and also um, my where we get some of our organic some of our organic seedlings that we don't grow. Um, he told me that asparagus is one of those plants um, that when you try to get rid of it, you can't um, easily. In fact, he told me that you could burn. You essentially had to burn the ground to get rid of it because that thing just keeps growing and growing and growing. So I guess it's kind of cool in some ways because once you get it really developed in there, if you love asparagus, it's going to keep going. We dedicated a, I don't know, a 1 foot by 2 foot area to about three plants, and then just it's just taken off. It hasn't spread out so much because we haven't let it, but it's just taken off. We mulch with a natural wood bark, but you could probably also use hay or straw, something along those lines. Just give it a nice mulching there. We t- this is another year where we mulched for the first time in our main garden, and we mulched about 2 to 3 inches. I would say about 3 inches in most areas. And this is by far the first year where we have not had to struggle with weeds nearly at all in our main garden. And you know how it goes. Once you start growing food and you get busy with everything, it's not just the harvest, it's taking care of everything else around, and you come back out one day and there's just weeds everywhere. And if you're not right on top of that, it is a huge challenge to get caught back up. And the mulching this year, again, we used just some natural double cut oak mulch. It was absolutely fantastic. Okay, I got to catch up here. Cukes need plenty of water. I didn't get, this is Ann with a plan. I didn't get the beetles this time, just hornworms and the little green worms that decimated my broccoli. Yeah. No luck with peppers until now with all the rain we've gotten. So um, we definitely didn't water the cukes enough. That was a lesson learned. The hornworms, well, you know what that experience was like then. And the little green worms, actually, this was my first week of going back to teaching. I teach high school English, and I was telling my students today, as a part of getting to know them a little bit, I was asking them what their favorite vegetable was because you got to bring these real life lessons back into school for them. And a few students said broccoli, and so when the first person said broccoli, I told them, if you ever grow it yourself, you better soak it because those little green worms that go in there, if you don't soak it in some salt water for about a half hour, you're gonna be eating some extra protein there. So something to know. Yeah, the rain is something that I think I tried one of our jalapenos the other day, one of the green ones. I didn't try a red one yet. But to tropical fruit gardening, Canberra's point, at least in general, we let our peppers. There's that dryness that we've had, that lack of rain, I think has helped with some of the heat because even the green jalapeno had a real nice heat to it, which is really good. Dangba Carla says, actually, the smaller the pepper, the more they produce. And I'm not sure why. Well, that makes sense because I've seen some of those little, what are they, little chilies? Actually, what is the name of the pepper that grows? It looks like it grows upside down, so the peppers are pointing up, and they're just everywhere, all over the plant. That's interesting to know, though, and it makes, from what we have in our garden, that makes perfect sense because our smaller peppers are definitely more prolific. Um, that patience that you need for peppers is something else as well. Um, Another factoid for my students about your green bell peppers aren't ripe, haven't turned color yet. Um, it's so interesting. We have our first red red peppers that they're sweet. I'm actually not sure the variety. We bought a whole bunch of different ones from our local extension school. They had a sale, and so we bought a bunch of different varieties of peppers, and we we ended up now with one of our first ripe red peppers. That it's not a hot pepper. It's this tiny, tiny little red pepper. It's round like a bell, but it looks like a. If you've ever seen one of those, what do they call those? Donut peaches. The shape of a donut peach is what this pepper looks kind of like. It's the strangest thing. So I'm not sure. Um, Although our yellow pepper in our compost bin, the ones we're growing intentionally, they have done great. We've probably had 25, 30 peppers off those, and they're a little bit bigger. Let's see. Let your chilies dry out between watering for hotter peppers. Yep, I've heard that. Peppers don't like to sit on wet soil. That is good to know as well. And beware, birds love the small peppers. Well, the number of birds we've had around here this season, then, um, they were enamored with some of our fruit. They were absolutely enamored with some of our fruit this year. Um, we had a uh, oh my, our gooseberry and some of our other berry bushes around the side there. Just we probably lost half of them to the birds, but at the same time, we didn't lose the rest of our garden to Japanese beetles. So what can we say? Yeah, our currants, they came for our currants. They didn't like the black currants, but they liked the other currants even more. So fall crops and fall gardening. Before I get to that, I want to remind you all of something, and I should have probably reminded you earlier, but this came in the mail recently. This is our seeding square that we're giving away. We have our video out there, that the Urban Homestead Dream video, where we said when we get to 1,000 views, we're going to give this away. We're going to ship it to one person at random who has commented on the video. And when I checked this evening, we were at, I believe, 472 views, so almost 500 views. So we're about halfway there. So even if you've watched that video before, you can see it on the channel. The thumbnail says we're giving one away. If you've watched it, or even if you haven't, go in and watch the video. Make sure you leave a comment. We want to get that to 1,000 views as quickly as possible, so we can give that square away. It came in the mail. It's looking nice and ready to go to one of you. So yeah, don't forget to get that video out there. We're still advertising the video. We're trying to get it out as much as possible. And then, if we get that to 1,000 quickly, there might still be time for you to use it this fall. Pacific Northwest, where in the Pacific Northwest are you, Delon Sensei? I'm just curious. I'm sorry, what zone are you in? You're in, oh, we were just out there a few months ago. Well, I guess now it's been about 8 months ago. Nothing's happened in the last few months. So is that zone? I don't know. We're in zone 5 here. Is that like zone 4? Do you know? 8B. Oh, I guess it's this. Oh yeah, because you're right by the coast. You would have that more temperate sort of cloud. You don't get as cold there. That's so interesting. I would say at 8B, then you have a lot more time and probably more availability for what you can grow than we do as well. Then, I mean, that's one of the things we've talked about, just in general, is when we've discussed where we live. I mean, we love this area very much, and sometimes there's that sense of, yeah, but if we move somewhere just a little bit warmer, or if we move somewhere with just a little bit longer season, it would be okay. In your zone right now, you still have a whole bunch, though. It seems like um, that you could still plant. I would say even from now, um, we just planted some beets. Hey, Geeky Gardens, how are you? Nice to see you as well. We just planted some. Well, our beets have been in the ground for a while, but some more cabbage and carrots, and I know you can plant all that out where you are. Now, the lawn sensei? What are you growing right now? Cultivating and oh yeah, that makes sense. So the lawn sensei says I am Italian and been always cultivating in Mediterranean weather. I'm starting my fall crops already here. Yeah, absolutely. Gotcha. Yeah, it's I mean you do have a wide variety there, but that Mediterranean weather has got to be really nice as well. Again, it's you make do with what you have, and that's one of the things we were talking about early on, and I see that a lot, is people knowing when their seasons are and just having that plan in place so you can maximize what you have. So you're growing kale. The lawn sensei is growing kale, chards, broccoli, arugula, salad, and spinach. We are right there with you. We are right there with you. Yeah, Geeky Gardens, you do have the warmer weather. You definitely have the warmer weather. and and we have I know we have folks on here, or at least one person on here was on here from Australia, and so you have the coming out of winter now into the summer, right? I believe there's like that opposite season of where we are. So Geeky Gardens, what are you planning to plant for your fall crop once you get it started? I'm curious about that. Lon Sensei, do you grow? Ah, yeah, Lon Sensei. I was going to say we are currently growing every single thing that you're growing, and arugula is actually the first time for us. So I'm wondering how that's going to pop up. It's a pretty quick growing vegetable, it seems. The arugula, it's a nice taste to it as well. So I enjoy it in the store, and I've read that again, it's our first time growing arugula, but I've read that it's sweeter when you harvest it younger, and then it gets kind of spicy. Just tropical fruit gardening. Canberra says just planting seedlings in greenhouse ready for spring. Yeah, I said summer. I meant to say mid spring, not summer. So coming out of winter, but uh, in what is the winter like there? Is it more mild than it is here? We had last year we had weather. Let's see, we had a wind chill one day. It lasted for a couple of days, but the worst it got was about minus 52 Fahrenheit was the wind chill here. That's not ideal weather. So I'm curious what your temps get down. I hope my internet's going okay here. I have to check it. And with a plan, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being there. Enjoy putting your chickens to bed. We had some insect trouble this year, and I would say with our kale, or sorry, with our mustard greens. And so that was a little bit tough. But I'm curious, Geeky Gardens, how you eat the mustard greens. Oh, we're back. Good. I'm sorry about that. My internet is. Yeah, Geeky Gardens. I was curious about how you cook up your mustard greens. Geeky Gardens has some great recipes. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I mentioned him in the our last video. He has this simple potato soup recipe that is just fabulous. So we linked it in our description for our last video. 42 max in the summer for tropical fruit garden in Canberra. That's hot. For those of you who don't know the conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Oh, and Ann, I don't know if you heard me say, but thank you so much for showing up. I know you were heading off to put your chickens to bed. C to F. Let's do it. I'm going to look it up on my other device here. The temperature of 42 is 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's pretty hot. That's crazy hot. Geeky Garden says, I usually cook mustard the same as collards. Okay. Overnight in a slow cooker with a bit of bacon. Sometimes I mix mustard and collards together. I really like the flavor of the mustard greens. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you stopping by Tropical Fruit Garden in Canberra. I really appreciate it. Um, I we bacon makes everything better, right? But especially with collard greens in general. So I love that idea. We have to do some mix and match in the future to try that out. It sounds really good. I know I actually asked for a recommendation on collard green recipes a while back from somebody else, and their response was just cook them longer than you think you need to. Thank you so much, Charlie, for coming by, and we enjoyed spending some time with you as well. We're gonna go. We're gonna go until 7 o'clock tonight, and then we're gonna go in. Actually, I'm gonna go pick a few vegetables and make some dinner as well. But so we have a couple more minutes. Just looking to see through, and really appreciate all the people who showed up tonight and have enjoyed some time with us. It's one of those. We've talked about making this more of a regular thing where our Friday evenings we can come out and enjoy some time, especially while we still have the ability, while the weather's still warm enough to do so. Geeky Garden says, often the coloreds don't make it in the house, especially the cabbage coloreds I got from a friend in North Carolina. Gotcha. The uh, the collard greens that we grew this year, we put them in two different spots. One in our main garden, and one in the shaded raised bed that we have over here. So they did very well in both places. So I think that makes sense. You said, in fact, that Geeky Garden said, um, in fact, I've got cabbage collards still producing that I planted last September. That's amazing. Yeah, they seem to be pretty tough plants. For us, the thing that doesn't make it in the house would be our fruits. We've got grapes around the other side, and grapes are one of those fruits that take you a while to learn. You study early on, and there's something that you have to trim back. You really have to prune aggressively, and we did not prune ours more aggressively enough. But they produced for the first time like really well this year, and I mean, we're just every time we walk by, what are you going to do? You see grapes. What do you do? You're going to wait for a harvest? Or you're just going to eat some, and that's where we are. We're eating them, um, and that's what happens. Lon Sensei says, "Yep, good choice. Going to harvest some cherry tomatoes tonight and have a spaghetti, tomato sauce, basil. Oh, fresh basil from your garden is a different experience. I'm not even sure. I'm trying to think back to um, the first taste of it of this season, but the smell of it, that idea of growing your own is why we're here in general, and the simple experience of something like one leaf of basil. I mean, I just had this conversation with a student of mine. He's a sophomore, and he's probably wise beyond his years, not his ears. Well, maybe that too. He's wise beyond his years. He's a sophomore in high school, and he said, "You got that right. Pesto ain't pesto without your own basil." And he said the same thing. He said, it's one of my favorite things to walk out. He has a little tiny garden at his house. This is one of my favorite things to walk out and just grab some cherry tomatoes. When you can grow them, grow your own fruits, your own vegetables. There's just nothing like it when you can. Geeky Garden says, I grew 12 different varieties of basil this year. You won a giveaway and got a ton of seeds. That makes sense because I remember from your video where you made your potato soup, You were talking about not being able to decide which kind of basil to put in there. So you went with, I think, rosemary. Uh, is there a substantially different taste between the basil? We grew two varieties. One of ours was the lemon basil. That was really good, really tasty lemon basil. Although it went to seed pretty quickly. Um, in general, that I would love to know more about that. And you also had some really, if I'm not mistaken, there was a video that you had that some really old basil too, like an 8-year-old basil plant, which is really impressive. I believe that's what I saw. That's amazing though. The taste of basil is like, well, just anything out here. I mean, I can't just speak to one thing. One fruit or one vegetable that's here. We've got a lot coming up. One of the things we're really excited about is our sweet potato harvest. So we've been harvesting potatoes quite a bit, um, and now we're going to move into the phase of sweet potatoes because we're getting really close on some of these sweet potatoes. We have one group that we planted a good bit later, and we're going to be right up to the limit on that to see if we get much of a harvest. But the other sweet potatoes are just about ready to come out of the ground, which we're really excited for. And I think we're going to have a good harvest. I don't want to. I should knock on wood, but I don't want to harvest. We can see some of them piping up through the soil a little bit, which is which is when you start to see it with a potato, you see it popping through and you cover it up real quick, but something's there. And the sweet potato is the same thing. You see them popping up a little bit, and we're gonna cover it back up because it's not quite there, but that's knowing something's growing underneath there. Geeky Garden says very different tastes. Lemon and lime taste like their names. Also, licorice and cinnamon are pretty unique. But I also love the standard Italian large leaf. Yeah, same here. I've not tried the lime. As I said, we grew the lemon and the large leaf Italian. But licorice and cinnamon sound very interesting. I'm not a big licorice person, so in all likelihood, I would probably focus more rather than on the licorice on the cinnamon. That just sounds like you could add a whole different kind of flavor to any number of dishes. We sometimes add a little cinnamon to our rice and beans, and so maybe that who knows, that might be an interesting flavor to it as well. I like that. Folks, it is 7 o'clock. Um, Thank you so much to all of you who came out here. Oh, I'm going to read this one. I never predict sweet potatoes or regular potatoes. I'll be digging my sweet potatoes next week. The plants look pretty good at least. Listen, Geeky Gardens, I look forward to seeing it because I'm sure you'll make a video of it. I look forward to seeing your harvest. We're gonna do the same thing here. Get it, in another week or so. You're right. It's hard to predict it, but the plants look great. The flowers on them have looked great, and as they've come and gone, and it's one of those things. You want to say fingers crossed, but I think we'll do okay. Okay, I'm going to close out tonight. I just want to say again, thank you so much for coming and watching. Our experience this season has been so memorable. It's not just the notion that we've had more time or sort of been forced in some ways to rethink what our priorities are here in the last couple months. But now that we're able to head into the fall season and we have so much more coming, as far as our channel goes, we have a lot more content coming for you as well. But we're really excited about the food potential that we have going forward. Still a ton to grow. We still have a month and a half, almost 2 months of time, hopefully, before our first frost. And we're planning for winter as well. And what we're going to do in our winter here to keep that growing process going. And we do have plans. I don't want to spoil anything, but we will be growing all winter. Our goal is to keep it going from now until the next growing season in our next spring. Again, we're in zone 5. It does get cold here in the winter. So that idea of having a plan in place and knowing where you can allocate room outside and inside is very important. So we have some great stuff coming for you, coming your way. Another harvest video coming very soon for you. We haven't done one in a while. You know, you get so busy, you have so much else that you have going on, out and about and around. It's like don't rub it in, Geeky Gardens. You don't do winter there. I know, I know. Tropical Fruit Gardening says Saturday morning here. So going out to the garden, have a good night. You have a great night as well. Again, don't forget to take a look at our video, our Urban Homestead Dream video. Watch it again, even if you've watched it once. Leave a comment if you haven't already. As soon as we get to 1,000 views, this brand new seating square is being shipped out to you. Thank you all so much for coming. We hope you enjoy the rest of your mornings, evenings, nights, wherever you are. And we'll see you next time. See you later. Thank you.